Hey guys, it's Bailey from Making With Midwest, and this is going to be a review of AeroMinerale's Makeup Mist or Hydrating Mineral Foundation. As you can guess by the name, it is a spray foundation. If you are a regular viewer or a viewer from way back when, way back in the day, you will know that I had a little love affair with Dior's Airflash Foundation, and I was a little bit of a spray foundation snob because I had seen this on the shelves of the drugstore side of Ulta before and kind of bypassed it because I just thought nothing will ever beat Dior. Well, then I ran out of the Dior and you know, it's expensive, and so I just went on about my life trying other foundations and finally decided to give this a go. So this is going to be a review of this foundation, and you know how my foundation reviews go. You'll see before pictures, after application, after so many hours of wear, both in this video as well as a link down below. You'll find a link in the description bar below to a blog post where you can see those pictures when they're not moving. So if you really want them up close and personal and to look at your leisure, check the blog post for that. But let's get into it. All right, first let's talk claims because I feel like that's the logical place to start. There's a sheet of paper that actually comes tucked away in the cap of this puppy, and so it's what I'm going to be working from. First of all, it is oil-free, it's long-wearing, it is a hydrating, since it's a hydrating mist, so it contains microminerals infused with aloe, moisturizing vitamins, and botanicals, and then it doesn't actually have anything to say about the coverage, so I'm just going to go ahead and tell you I think it is medium coverage that is slightly buildable beyond that. It covers little, I have like freckles that don't stand out so much in the winter because I haven't, you know, tanned or anything, and so it covers those freckles, but it definitely does not completely cover discoloration, like discolored blemishes and stuff like that, or my under eye discoloration. Granted, now it's kind of exceptionally bad because I've been traveling recently and I'm just tired in general, and so it's definitely not going to cover those up, but even when I wasn't any of those things, I still definitely had to rely on a concealer if I wanted guaranteed coverage in my under eye areas and on discolored blemishes. I thought it was interesting that this foundation said it was hydrating because one of the very, very few issues I had with Dior was that it could be kind of drying in the winter, because it really did, once it was on your face, it dried and it set to like a concrete powder. It was so far beyond a powder that it was more like concrete, but because of that, it had a tendency to emphasize dry patches if I ever had any. Now I have combination skin, so I didn't tend to have that all that often, but in the dead of winter in Minnesota, where I was living at the time, it wasn't too hard to come across them. So that is one thing that was appealing to me about this foundation, because it did say it was hydrating, and I do in fact think it is pretty hydrating. It was actually pretty fortunate that I got to try this out when I did here in the springtime, because weather in Chicago and Midwest in general is very variable, and so I have worn this on days when it is in the 30s and blustery, and I didn't notice it clinging to any dry or unevenness in my skin texture. At the same time, on days like today when it is sunny-ish outside and I tend to walk places because I bus to work and stuff like that, I didn't notice any severe makeup meltdowns. So for that, I have to say it is pretty long-lasting. However, given that it is a very moisturizing formula and I have a combination skin tone, I'm going to get naturally more oily in my T-zone anyway, and so I did find that while it didn't wear away, I didn't notice that I lost any coverage throughout the day. I did notice a little bit of excess shine. For me personally, that happens with nearly any foundation I wear that isn't explicitly matte or mattifying, or apply a mattifying primer underneath it. So I really don't fault it too much for that. It's just something that you're going to want to be aware of if you have an oily skin type here in the summertime, or a combination skin type like me. But I think drier skin types might enjoy this a little more. But in general, I do think it's long wearing. The picture you're going to see before was taken at about 8 a.m. this morning, and the after picture was taken at 5 p.m. tonight. So it did last a full day with only minor wear and tear in my under eye area, which I personally kind of attribute more to my concealer than anything else, and a little bit of dewiness around the T-zone, which, as I said, for me is going to be because I have combination skin and will probably vary for those of you with either oily or dry skin. I also want to talk about application methods with this, because I feel like that could be the most puzzling or intimidating or off-putting part of this product if you are used to powder or liquid type foundations. You can obviously apply this straight to your face, spraying what they suggest to be 10 inches away, spraying it all over. If you do that, I have, and I like the results just fine. I didn't really like how much product I felt like was being wasted in, you know, when I would get to the outer perimeter of my face, but that is completely up to you. The one thing that I would recommend though is putting something on your hair, because as I just mentioned about drying down to a powder consistency, once it is dry on your hairline, it is not coming off. I mean, it's there. So just take that precaution if you do choose to apply this straight onto your face. Then there is also the method of application that I personally like best, and that is applying with a brush. I just spray it with what else? My IT Cosmetics Heavenly Luxe powder brush. I spray it just directly on the brush and then I buff it into my skin. And because this has a tendency to dry relatively quickly, I find myself working in sections. So I'll spray it and then I'll work on this quadrant, and then I'll, you know, spray it and work on this quadrant, just kind of like that, because I do find it is faster drying. But I personally love the effect, the soft focus buffing effect this kind of brush gives. AeroMinerale also has a video showing different methods of application, and I have not personally tried them, but I thought I would share them with you here anyway in case you were curious. They recommend spraying it into the palm of your hand and then using a finger to apply it as spot concealing all over your face, under your eyes, wherever it is you need it. They recommend using a flat foundation brush using the same method where you spray it into the palm of your hand and use it to apply that way. And then I think, oh, a sponge. And I'm not sure if that was the same, dabbing it and then applying or spraying directly on a sponge. Either way, a sponge is an option. So there are multiple different ways to apply this foundation, and so if that is what's intimidating you or deterring you from trying it, don't let it, because once you've done it once, it's super easy to do the next time. You just got to figure out which way works best for you. And ultimately, I do feel like it's worth it to learn how to apply it if you're curious, because this foundation does give kind of that second skin effect. It's just very natural looking, yet it does even out your skin tone. Obviously, I said it doesn't cover your blemishes, but it does provide that sort of second skin, soft focus kind of effect that I haven't found any other liquid or powder foundation to be able to apply without being noticeable. So that is something that I think makes this particular foundation unique. Let's talk pricing and conclusions. This can, 1.5 ounce can, goes for $19.99 on the AeroMinerale website, and while that might seem like it's a little bit more expensive for something that typically falls on the drugstore side of Ulta, a normal liquid foundation from the drugstore is typically about 1 ounce. This is an ounce, and the few I checked up in my stash up there are also 1 ounce. So you do get about 50% more product in this. I'm not sure if it's still available in Ulta stores or on the Ulta website, but I do know that on May 19th it's going to become available on Target.com. So if you are interested in trying it, you can look out for it there. I think this would be a great foundation for those with all skin types in the winter, because it's very hydrating for those with dry skin, yet it's not going to get excessively dewy, shiny, oily for those with oily skin types in the winter. However, like I said before, now that the weather's warming up, on my combination skin it is developing a little bit of a sheen, so you might want to steer clear of this oily skin types in the warmer months. But even still, I still think it would still be good for drier skin types, and I personally plan on wearing it into the warmer months. In general, I really like this foundation and would recommend it to anyone who wants a natural coverage. It gives that second skin look without being too obvious, and like I said, it doesn't cover up pretty glaring blemishes, but it really does nicely even out the skin tone and gives that soft focus, almost satiny matte kind of finish. And it doesn't hurt that it is, I mean, not a dead ringer for, but close to Dior's Airflash, but for a small fraction of the price. So thank you guys so much for watching. I'd love to hear what your experiences have been with this foundation, or whether or not you'll be trying it, down below in the comments section. Please don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already, and I will see you in my next video. Bye!